realistic expressions he had made in his book. So it should be, the people should be left with something to remember. So write what's right. So across your writings, it is good. It is imperative to write that is correct, legally correct. Because if you don't align by the laws, you might like face the legal actions, because you might get into legal complications, because lifting one's work is the infringement of intellectual property. So you must be engaging yourself into writing that's right, and that's right in legal ways. Writing techniques, a powerful tool in academic writing. It involves vocabulary. Your jargon should not contain slangs. Your jargon should be having formal words, and it should be having undertones which are clearly understandable, and it should be having connotations which convey messages in a very fluid manner, emphasize points, and maintain the interest of the readers. So for that, one must use formal language, no casual language. There has been a growing trend of using yeah in place of yes. So that is a bad practice. YEAH, yeah, is not a formal word. The formal word for that is yes, and that clarifies your assertion. So use of formal language. And for the record, I must make a point here. Like, it is best to write in third person whenever you are writing an academic piece. It is best to write as a third person narrative. So using formal language, legally correct language, ethically correct language, you must not use the words which could be of offensive to some people, some populations. Like while dealing with the third gender population, you have to be very careful. Like, you must not like these days we are into usage of pronouns in our LinkedIn's profile and social media profiles. We use pronouns. That is something which we see as development. Because of the inclusion of the third gender, we are more and more, we use they and them instead of he or she. So we must have this consideration towards the transgender or the third gender population, to use ethically correct language while using pronouns. Effective word usage enhance the writing, making it more meaningful. So for that matter, you can use meaningful words, not very complex, not very simple, but meaningful. Purposeful statement. A statement should be exclusive in itself. It must be containing a meaning. Like, a sentence must not need another sentence to make it clear. A sentence should be whole in itself. Maintaining the inner theme of that paper or that thesis or that dissertation, the aim and purpose should be reflected in every like fragment of that writing piece. So maintaining the theme, so the purity and the soul of the write-up should be maintained. Controlling the repetitive words and phrases, so that you're not your readers are not feeling lost. So there's no need of repetition of the phrases. So navigating through the academic writing, that was my title of this discussion. So you must know your premises. What are you exactly willing to convey to your readers? Anticipate common questions. You must be having in your mind the common question which would arise after you have written something. Like, if you have written, for that matter, the average IQ of South Asian males or males and females are around 90 to 110. So if you're writing, you're putting some data on record. So you must be able to, you must be prepared to answer and then evidence that finding of yours, those observation of yours. So you must be ready for common questions which sorry, you should anticipate. Building strong arguments on the basis of evidence you have observed, or you have fetched evidence from field, or doing surveys, doing interviews, structured, semi-structured, non-structured interviews, doing questionnaire studies, field surveys. So on the basis of that, we gather evidence, and we can make strong arguments on that basis instead of getting the secondary and tertiary data from research papers in journals and building our argument on basis of that. So maintaining a composure during academic writing is essential for projecting confidence and authority. Consider these tips for maintaining the universality. Avoiding the colloquial term, the most common term, like there are plenty of terms which we use in our spoken language. Not every word we use in our spoken language should be or could be used in our written piece in academic writings. We cannot use those colloquial words. Like there's a colloquial term for I must not. This is a little unofficial, but I don't find any other example to prove my point here. Like every washing powder in our households is called generally referred to as surf, but it is not surf. If you're using Ariel, you should be using that particular specific name for it. You must not use colloquial term, which is a journal term to define an array of words. So actively use formal words, like as far as possible, use formal words and use a formal structure to your writing. And it should be, like I said, it should be exclusive in itself. The phrase and the sentence should be exclusive to itself, and it should be meaningful independently. Pause and reflect wherever you feel vital. You might make use of pauses wherever you wish to stop and you wish to intervene and you wish to bring interventions between your observations. You may have those spaces, and you may reflect on the previously observed evidence. Maintaining purity of the language, you must make this a very strong point, that maintaining the purity of the language is essential. It is very imperative to maintain the purity of the language. If you're writing in English, be very sure, be very concerned that you must not use Hinglish or Hindified English or Urdufied English for that matter, making use of Roman English. No, that is not permitted. That is in no case that is permitted. If you're writing in English, you must maintain the purity of English language, and whenever you are using some other language, you have to make that in italics, so that the reader should be making out that this particular word does not belong to this this piece of writing. Right is impactful writing. The ability to write effectively will leave a lasting impact on your readers. Effectively communicating involves not only delivers an enduring message, but also resonates with the experiences, value, and emotions of those reading and engaging. So, if a person is able to write effectively, his or her readers will remember something which they have read in their pieces, right? If like for that matter, recently in psychology, in my discipline, I come from a discipline of psychology. In my discipline, there has been a recent development on happiness, the psychology of happiness. There have been great researchers in psychology of happiness. So one of the psychologists, great senior psychologist, Professor Kanazawa, he's from Japan. Professor Kanazawa has worked on psychology of happiness, and he has given a theory that is called Savannah theory of happiness. So Savannah theory says that, sir, are you with me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. So, sir, so there is a very interesting discussion about Savannah theory of happiness. Professor Kanazawa has worked on it, and he says that, sir, do you feel happy when you see green pastures and trees and mountains and rivers? Do you feel happy, sir?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So Professor Kanazawa has said that 5,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, while our forefathers were migrating during the great African shift, the great African migration. We all know that 50,000 years ago, that great migration took place. People, the Homo sapiens race migrated from Africa to this, the land of the Central Asian lands. So Professor Kanazawa has mentioned in his this Savannah theory of happiness that during this great migration, the human forefathers of today's human beings kept walking and camping in green pastures and in the savanna grasslands of Kenya and Masai Mara and those Zimbabwe, the present day Zimbabwe. Earlier it was something else, Rhodesia. It was called Rhodesia, but in older times it was something else. It was all Africa. So the forefathers used to walk and halt and camp and live in the green pastures for months, for years, and they camped, they lived. So on the anatomical part, on this or the biopsychological part of this is the powerhouse of emotions in psychology, in biology also. You must be aware of it. So the hypothalamus is a part of brain, and that is called the powerhouse of emotions. So Professor Kanazawa has used scans of like the ancient skulls which have been procured, which have been found in which have been kept in museums. So he made use of those skulls, and with thousands of X-rays and MRIs and scans, he arrived at a conclusion that there was some developmental shift in the brains of humans of today and humans of yesteryears. So he came up with a conviction that since hypothalamus was the part of the brain that was not there 1,000 years ago, our brain didn't have hypothalamus, which clarifies that we didn't have like many emotions. Today we have a lot of emotions. We deal with social media, we have emojis, we have a lot of emotions, and while doing those like, love, and hate, and angry, and sad emojis, while making use of that, we express our emotions. So 50,000 years ago, the hypothalamus was being developed. So it had that photographic memory. While the hypothalamus was being developed, and while our forefathers walked in the pastures, green pastures, the memory of those green pastures has been inherited to us. So when we feel today, when we go to green gardens, and when we go to grasslands, we see mountains, we see rivers, we feel happy, because that is the inheritance of happiness we have inherited 15,000 years ago to the present day. That is one unique thing Professor Kanazawa has mentioned in his research. And